78 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a beautiful day in Spain as the riders now face up to the final weekend of this 3 weeks race. 3,000 kilometres are behind them, 200 kilometres remain, and there are only two riders now who can possibly win that final golden jersey. Hi again everybody, welcome back to our live coverage here on OLN. I'm Phil Liggett, joined by Bob Roll and Paul Showin. Well, yesterday as we came into the streets of Avila, that beautiful walled city, we saw what we would call a cheeky move by Aitor González.
A very cheeky move. I think everyone was expecting it, and Roberto Heras was certainly expecting it, because it's a tough finish up into the walled city of Avila. And what this man did was go out and try and get himself just a few more seconds advantage. At the end, you can see Roberto Heras really had to dig deep to limit that to just 4 seconds on the line. But I think it was a psychological move that was made by Aitor González, because going into the final time trial, he's in second place overall. He is the best time trialist, but a move like that proves, Phil, that he's not confident.
Maybe so, but you know, it's a hilly time trial tomorrow, and now he's within striking distance of Heras. What was wrong with Heras, Bob? Was he weak? Did he misjudge it? Did he make a mistake?
I think that he knew it was coming and he saw it go. He said he just didn't have the legs to cover the attack by Aitor González, who put in a really powerful, shocking attack in the finale of the race. Getting a quote after these stages of the Vuelta has been sort of a holy grail amongst the Spanish media, but he's a very quiet man. He lets his wheels do the talking for him. I think he's ridden this Vuelta with class and distinction and enough to win the Vuelta overall. He has 1 minute and 8 seconds over Aitor González, but I think he has better form at the moment, more fitness. He's coming out of the mountains more rested, and it's actually quite a hilly time trial tomorrow, so the advantage is with Heras. I'm going to see him predict again. I said he was going to win by 5 seconds. He lost 4 seconds yesterday. I'm going to keep it at 1 second in the finale in Madrid then.
All right, one thing we could be assured of, the closest ever finish in this race now. You never know. Remember Greg LeMond and Laurent Fignon? The closest finish, by the way, in this event is 6 seconds. Anyway, that could be tomorrow. Let's have a look at today.
Trying to make the team win. And I think at the end of the day, if Aitor González does lose the Vuelta a España to Roberto Heras, one of the main reasons will be because of his own teammate Óscar Sevilla riding his own performance.
Well, it's often the case when you've got two great riders all vying for a top finish. At the end of the day, they both want to be the winner of the event, and at some stage strength will out, and I don't think that Óscar has had quite the legs as Aitor has had over these 3 weeks. And Aitor's ridden really well in the time trial that we've had at Cordoba, and now he can reach out and touch the golden jersey, but whether he can actually pull it on tomorrow night, only time will tell. This man here now heading into the zone with about 27 miles to go. Still a long way as we cause chaos on the roads of Madrid, because there's the traffic jam waiting to filter onto the highway that we are now racing along here on these wide open freeways going down into the finish at Warner Brothers at San Martin de la Viga. And they seem to have it nicely under control, because it's steadily descending. 4:25. We've seen that the motorcycle timekeeper there show the lead of 4:19, so it's coming down all of the time here. The Milinates MSS team, they're coming to town with 7 of their 9 men left in the race, and they've also got a good sprinter in Angel Edo, who is always in at the head of the race in the sprint, but he hasn't quite got the final kick to get up there. Looking at the man just trying to win a stage, never mind a win the Vuelta a España for the first time. This is Oscar Laguna, who has now 33 kilometres, just over 20 miles to go. The last time check we got, 3 minutes and 7 seconds.
Well, it's looking pretty difficult here. There's confirmation of that time gap right now. This man is just hoping to survive, but I think with that distance to go and the fact that the time gap has tumbled quite dramatically over the last 40 kilometres, looking at the main field, Bob, I think they want the prey back in the fold today.
Absolutely. They're going to chase down before the finish line, and a lot of teams on the front, not just one team doing the tempo. So many teams, 3 or 4 teams we've seen at least at the front of the bike race. Phonak, Lamprey, a little bit from the Alessio team, who is the team of Angelo Furlan, who won the last field sprint we saw just a few days ago, and Fossa Bartolo sending a few guys forward. So that makes it very hard for a lone escapee to stay away to the finish. Oscar Laguna is doing a great job for his sponsor throughout the day, winning all the intermediate sprints and a couple of Category 3 climbs, but I think they're going to catch him before the finish line. He'd like to hold on to the town of Fuenlabrada, which is the basis and the namesake of his sponsor, actually, and that's Santiago Botero, the great Colombian rider on the Kelme team. He's had a very up and down Vuelta a España. He got dropped on all the mountains, and then suddenly he felt a lot better and actually won a stage. It was incredible to see him do that after he had been struggling so.
The tempo up, but look at that. This is a man who is very happy with himself, Bob.
Big crowd there too. It's
Massive.
great to see that, and it's nice for the sponsor to go there. That's have their rider out the front at their own sort of base for team operations. That's a great result, and I think that Jazztel and Relax have done a good job in the Tour of Spain and have more than justified their selection into this bike race.
We're talking about Jazztel and teams disappearing and coming back into the sport. Jazztel will be replaced next year by Patanina. I don't know if you've ever noticed on the shorts of the Jazztel riders, Patanina written down the length of it. Well, Patanina used to sponsor a team a couple of years ago, which then became the Caja Rural team, and Neil Stevens, the Australian, used to ride for them. And also Mariano Lejarreta, who was a brilliant bike rider when I was racing and was one of the riders who used to seem to thrive on riding all three Grand Tours, the Vuelta and the Tour de France, following it up with the Giro as well, and he was an incredible bike rider, and he now acts as a technician or a technical advisor. To a slight respite from the wind here, but it's really going to come to nothing, Phil, because I'm pretty sure he's going to get caught.
He'll get caught. He's laughing here with his manager, but he's done what he planned to do, and that was go out on the attack and grab all of the limelight for the majority of the day. So well done, Oscar Laguna, Danny Schneider and Pietro Calcioli with the others. We'll take a break and then join us as we...
A great job leading out their sprinter Pataki, and in the absence of Mario Cipollini, it's a real toss-up, and the teams that can work together with a fast man like Pataki or Zabel can come up with the goods. Pataki getting the better of Zabel on that occasion, but lately in this bike race it seems like Zabel has the better form at the moment and a little bit higher speed. He beat Calcioli in the intermediate time sprints. They weren't for first place, but they was still a hard-fought battle, and it will give Team Telecom a little bit extra morale for the finish, the last 3 or 4 to 5 kilometers before they get into the last kilometer and they see the red kite and the sprinters come to the front and start battling it out.
We see how the referees have cleaned out that gap right now. They've got all of the cars away because the main field is charging along this big straight road into the outskirts of the Warner Brothers Park, and the next banner we're going to see is going to be 10 kilometers to go.
And the gap is 20 seconds. That's all it was. And he won't look over his shoulder now because you'll see the charge of the Light Brigade here as they begin to wrap this one up. They'll have him before the 10 kilometres to go. They are round about 12 and a half, 13 kilometres from the line at this point. ONCE are beginning, not ONCE, Team Coast are beginning to move riders up towards the front line as well, because they have a reasonable sprint of riders heading in to the last 10 kilometres.
Kilometers an hour just flying down the road, setting it up for their fast men Pataki and Zabel for the finish. There's some speed bumps, a little bit tricky at the back of the field when guys are trying to jump their bikes. Road racers are not generally known for that type of prowess, but let's see how it goes now. It's down a long line there of riders, all queuing up for the sprint now.
Well, Igor Flores was the man in charge of bunny hops today, but the whole long line now, so you know now it's too hard for people to come from the back to the front. The winner of the day is probably in the first 20-25 riders right now. Telecom are back in charge.
Bit of disorganisation there, that we can see somebody looking back to see the position of Alessandro Pataki. Eric Zabel is up into 4th place now. Pataki coming up around the outside on the right there, keeping themselves very close to the front right now. Telecom doing a superb job, which is amazing when you think they've only got 5 bike riders left in, but they still want to try and give this win to Eric Zabel. The speed right now as we go inside the last kilometre is touching 60 kilometres an hour. It's a slight sweep round to the right hand side now, and then it will straighten up and they will have a very long 800 metre straight finish to the line.
Well, as they make this right-hand curve here, Eric Zabel has not won a stage of the Vuelta a España. He only needs to finish at the head of the race today to be confirmed as the winner of this race in the points competition. But like all men in this situation, Bob, they want the victory.
Everybody wants to win this stage, and here they come down to the finish line. It's being led out by Telecom, and there goes one of the Fossa Bortolo riders leading out for Pataki.
So it looks as though Pataki may like this one better than Zabel. He's lying in 3rd place as we pass into the gates here of the park. Now the lead out. I think it's Goresh Stangley trying to get Pataki the lead. Here comes Sven Tutenberg. Tutenberg on the right of the picture, Serrano on the left as they come straight at us now. As Tutenberg is going very, very hard with being pushed by Glomser on the right. It's going to be close here, and it's Furlan again on the line who has got it, and Furlan is proving the new man on the block.
Well, that was a very chaotic sprint there. Roberto Heras just coming in the main field. No time lost at all for him today. He'll still stay at the top of the leaderboard. But Bob, they were all over the road there. Everybody was throwing. I think the fact that it was slightly downhill made it a very fast sprint, and one that had an awful lot of teammates in the race either to help him over the last few kilometres. There it looked for that moment as if Zorada on the right hand side there had got it completely right. Eric Zabel slightly boxed in, and in fact he had to fight his way through a few gaps there to try and keep himself in the top 10, but that was a very clear win. And Sven Tutenberg looked to me as if he'd started the sprint just a little bit too soon.
Well, just watch this now. Furlan, Pataki, and I think Zabel has pinched third place, which is an excellent result, and that will confirm him as the winner of this race on points. We'll take a break and come back, and we'll soar alongside one another, so that 68 seconds is what Gonzalez needs now in the time trial tomorrow. Óscar Sevilla in third place, Beloki fourth, and Mayo, he won't reach the total of Eric Zabel, and Zabel knows it. It's been a wonderful expedition for Eric, and he's added another major jersey to his bow.
Well, let's not forget we're looking at the man who will be crowned the winner of the points competition tomorrow, Phil, but he is also the #1 bike rider in the world.
But he's going to leave this Tour of Spain without a stage victory. He won't be too happy with that, because he won't be winning the time trial either. After 3 weeks of racing, two great Spanish cyclists separated by a year in age, but only by 68 seconds in this year's Tour of Spain. They are now coming together in what we always refer to as the race of truth, and may the best man win. Hello again, everybody. I'm Phil Liggett, joined for the last time by Bob Roll and Paul Sherwin. We are now on showdown time, and everybody will have chosen their favourite. But before we analyse who might win this year's Tour of Spain, two riders yesterday were confirmed as champions of other classifications. Eric Zabel, in theory, can be caught by Alessandro Pataki, but only if Pataki wins the stage. He won't do that. So Eric Zabel is the champion for the first time of the points competition. The other man is Aitor Osa. He confirmed himself as the king of the mountains yesterday. He had a very good battle out on the course. He lost the lead. He reclaimed it for the last time yesterday. So the tour goes on, but for the very last time, we now race into the wonderful football stadium of Real Madrid. And Paul, Gonzalez, possible favourite?
Well, Phil, if you look at it on paper, Gonzalez has to run out the overall winner, but it doesn't always work out that way. He has already proved that he is one of the great individual time trialists, and in fact on stage 10 he beat Roberto Heras by 1 minute and 34 seconds. If he does a ride like that again today, he will ride away with the Vuelta Ciclista a España for 2002. But theory doesn't always work in practice. The only thing that is certain, though, is that Tour of Spain today is Aitor González for the taking.
Well, I suspect that one man will be rooting. It might be Roberto Heras, will be Lance Armstrong, the Tour de France winner. He'll be watching this coverage on OLN in the United States. Can he rise to the occasion? I don't mean Armstrong, Bob, I mean Heras.
I think Roberto Heras can indeed rise up to the occasion. He's dominated the field on the climbing stages. He won at Pradera, he won at Angliru, and he also did a great ride on the Covatia. He's in the golden jersey that gives the rider a little bit more momentum. We've been treated to a real seesaw battle between these two great champions, and Heras rode a good time trial, not a great one, but he rode a very solid time trial, the first individual time trial, and it's been a real treat to watch Gonzalez and Heras battle it out. And there's one more battle, and it's for all the marbles. The golden jersey is on the line. I think...
Well, the dirty looks of my co-commentators having said that he did win the last time trial. What I meant to say was he won the race on the last stage. He didn't win the time trial, of course. That's the man who's on our screen now as the fast man so far, Santiago Botero. Here is Gilberto Simoni. He's now up and running. Important start for him. He's lying in 8th place and the best Italian in the field. And they've had a second best Italian in the field. They've had a very, very good situation here. He'll be chased by the man who is the best Italian, Francesco Casagrande, who has been a little bit anonymous and yet has been very consistent to claim 7th place for the moment.
Well, I expected him to ride a bit better than he has done, Gilberto Simoni. I expected a lot more of him in the mountains. This man right now looking to put in a fine performance for Team Coast. He's got a fantastic position, hasn't he, Bob? Getting down right into the centre of the handlebars there in that aerodynamic position. A lot of riders testing themselves in wind tunnels to try and find the most aerodynamic position, but still retaining the amount of power required to do a very good time trial.
Exactly. That's a very fine line. You want to have your breathing as well as your pedaling cadence and your aerodynamic position all working in harmony together, and that's what the good time trialists can do. And they've been using the wind tunnels all over the world that have been used for Formula One race cars up till now. But now the bike racers, including this man, Gilberto Simoni, have spent a lot of time in the wind tunnels perfecting exactly the aerodynamic position that they want, as well as their pedaling cadence. And it's so many factors go into the whole equation: saddle height, how far it's canted forward, how low the bars are, how narrow the bars are, what kind of gears and what kind of cadence, and it all goes into this very disciplined part of bicycle racing, the time trial. Gilberto Simoni, not one of the great ones, he's a very good climber, but last year in the Giro d'Italia, when he was trying to win the race, he put in an absolutely fantastic time trial and even won the stage when he had the pink jersey on. So it was another example of just how much power the pink jersey gives to the rider that wears it into the final TT. Here's Francesco Casagrande, the great Italian champion, getting ready for his start. He's 6th place overall. He would like to maintain that. He's not a great time trialist either, even losing the Giro d'Italia a couple of years ago to Stefano Garzelli on the last stage. That was an uphill time trial. There was 2 hard climbs on it. A little bit different equation than today's race. It's easier to lose more time if you're not riding very well on an uphill time trial than it is on a flat one. That's why I think that Heras still has the best chance of anybody.
Yeah, he's facing a very taut time trial to end this Tour of Spain. He lost the race on this last stage last year to Angel Casero. He has a real chance now. He might lose 3rd place to Joseba Beloki. Remember, in 3rd place last year was the American Levi Leipheimer, who finished very strongly in this year's Tour de France. So Garcia Casas is underway. There are 5 riders left to go, and we'll be back to see all.
I have a feeling the only man who can really beat him at the end of the day is Aitor González. We're now with Felix Garcia Casas out on the course. This is what the intermediary times looked like, and you can see Mola has just come in there with 5th fastest time, 22 seconds down, but still at the top of the leaderboard it's Santiago Botero in a time of 14 minutes and 16 seconds. After that, everyone is reasonably close. Santos Gonzalez in 2nd place. Joseba Beloki, 4th man from the end to start, and hoping to try and put in a performance today, Phil, which will put him on the podium after his 2nd place finish in the month of July to the great American champion Lance Armstrong.
Known his big moments, 4 days in the Golden Leaders jersey this time around. He held it for 3 days last year. He finished 3rd in the Tour de France last year, 3rd in the 2000 and 2nd this time, and he's now riding, he hopes, into 3rd place in this year's Vuelta.
Bob, that's a pretty serious front wheel he's got in there.
That looks almost like a full-on disc wheel, which riders used to use. It's a very twisty, turny. Here's Jose Enrique Gutierrez finishing. He's in 9th place so far. Try to stay in there. He might fall out of just away from Morenhout in 10th place. Yes, absolutely. That was a very interesting time trial machine that Beloki had. The front wheel looked like it just had some holes in it, not really spokes, but that'll give him a little bit better ability to go around the corners, but it's a very aerodynamic situation. You can see the long cross-section of down tube there, and that's just to cut through the wind a little bit faster. Joseba Beloki looks to be going quite well. One rider I thought that it might have a chance to win also was Angel Casero. He started, it looks like he's having a little bit of trouble with his machine there.
Well, the reason for that, Bob, is when you take the risk of having almost full disc wheel in the front like that, any time you catch a small amount of wind, it just almost pulls the handlebars away from you.
It looks like he's a little bit reluctant to get down in the drops now. We'll have to see if he's not having some trouble with his machine there. But that was there he goes. He's down in the drops now, trying to pick up his momentum. Casero, at this point in the race, seemed to take a reasonable start and then build his speed and looked to me to be really flying.
And welcome back. We're 12 seconds away from the start now of Aitor González, the man who lies 2nd in this race, this marvellous race. He's on the countdown now. He knows that 2 minutes behind him is his arch rival, Roberto Heras. So we're at 1 minute 8 seconds is the gap between González and Heras. He has a 2-minute start in the start house, and he's got to make it count.
Well, he's gone out fairly relaxed at the moment. He's seen a lot of riders having a few problems going around these first two bends. These bends not necessarily designed for this kind of sport right now. He's opted for a full disc wheel in the rear, a spoked wheel in the front right now, but this man won the time trial on stage 10. Today he realized that if he can beat Roberto Heras by 69 seconds, he's going to win the Vuelta a España.
Well, Bob, it's a very, very crucial moment, this first kilometre. It's a good indicator to the bike rider whether it's his day or not, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely, and he looks to be very strong so far, so I think it's going to go right down to the wire in this bike race. We'll see Roberto Heras starting it in just a few moments now. He's probably having the most nervous time of his whole life right now, Roberto Heras. And
as you speak, Bob, he's exactly 1 minute from the start.
And Gonzalez looking very relaxed at the start of this bike race. We saw him early in the coverage talking to the Spanish reporters, smiling and joking, so that's a good indication that he's on really strong form, and he's having a good ride so far.
Well, he said the only thing that really worried him about this final time trial day today, Phil, was whether or not he would suffer a mechanical problem. If you suffer a mechanical problem in a time trial like this, when the two riders in first and second place are separated just by 68 seconds, you can throw away 20 to 30 seconds immediately, especially if you have a flat tyre. The mechanic will be on tenterhooks for the next...
Golden jersey, Roberto Heras. He has 4 times finished in the top 6 in the Vuelta a España. He has won it once in the year 2000. This time he will finish either first or second. And you can hear the crowd counting down with the race commissaire as the Golden Man is now underway. 5 days in the lead, or will it be 6? And we'll know in approximately 50 minutes.
Well, it's going to be a very important time trial for him. He will receive a lot of information coming to him from Johan Bruneel out on the course, and I'm pretty sure he received a phone call from Lance Armstrong last night giving him the best of luck for today's individual time trial. In fact, I wrote to Armstrong on the email last night and asked him if he thought Roberto Heras could win. He said, "In my heart, I want this man to win, but I'm not sure because Aitor González is a very good individual time trialist." But he felt that this man deserved to win the Tour of Spain today because he had been a great champion out on the course and he'd put in some great battles on the slopes of the big mountains we've had. That's what the time check looks like at 12 kilometres. Botero still with the fastest time there. Mola now dropping down into 6th place because Casero has gone through in 2nd place, just 9 seconds back. But Roberto Heras is out on course and he'll be getting time checked pretty soon.
He certainly will. He will know exactly what is going on as they pass through the timing points. As Paul has said, just over a second per kilometre is all he can afford to lose and not lose the Tour. Any more than that and he will lose the Tour. And I can't remember a one-on-one battle as good as this since 1989 when it was Le Monde chasing Laurent Fignon.
Well, that time difference at the start was 50 seconds. It looks like a problem here for Óscar Sevilla, because Sevilla, I think, he's going to change his bike here right now. He's looking over.
What's
feet
happened?
are out
Flat
immediately.
tire?
And he's opted to change machines immediately. You see, he got both feet out. He's waiting. Where's the team car? Where's the team car? This is a major problem for Óscar Sevilla right now. I cannot believe that the team car was so far behind. These swap machines. He will have lost himself there, Bob, around about 15 to 20 seconds.
That's an absolute disaster for Óscar Sevilla. He's got to restart his whole momentum. He's got to refocus now. It looked like he had a very nervous moment there, looking down the road and not seeing his team car just at the moment when he had a problem with his machine. We couldn't see exactly what it was, if it was a flat tire or some gears or maybe his handlebars. The riders have had a lot of trouble with that so far this year, and Sevilla not having a good ride so far today.
He's very, very annoyed, and well he might be. We'll switch to the 24th kilometre. Watch David Plaza here coming through with the second best time. But I'll tell you, Paul, if he lost 15 to 20, I'm having a flashback. Is this a flashback?
No, it's again, because that's the yellow machine. There's a serious problem here right now.
What is going on?
This is a serious problem for Óscar Sevilla. This is the second time this has happened. He swapped back to that other machine, and I think the mechanic must have tried to repair that bike, which both he and Aitor González are using. These bikes obviously bought in specially for the final day's time trial, and if he's lost himself 20 or 30 seconds, he could have lost himself a podium position, because at the start of the day he is separated from Joseba Beloki by just 24 seconds. And Bob, getting yourself back after a problem like this is very, very difficult.
See, sorry Bob, but that was where he had a problem with this machine. He realised straight away that this machine was also faulty. And the mechanic, I mean, that manoeuvre is actually illegal. His car should not be alongside him, but they realised that this bike was not working either.
Well, you can see here he really is going to take a severe blow to his morale with that. 2 bike changes. This is a very difficult thing to pull yourself back from. And this man, don't forget, finished second in stage 10's individual time trial right now. The time he's looking to beat is that of his own teammate Santiago Botero, but I think the mechanic will be really a bit nervous in the back of the car right now. It could be a problem with the handlebars, Phil. There's a lot of riders have had problems with handlebars throughout this season, and in fact I've noticed a lot of the low profile handlebar manufacturers have actually been selling torque wrenches to make sure that they are tightened to perfection, and that may well be what the problem was there.
Yes, snapping handlebars has been quite a feature, and torque wrenches will probably level it off. But we think now that he has already conceded his time in the overall classification to Beloki. So it's now 1-on-1, and the man that sets the best time between these two will be the third place finisher at the end.
Well, Beloki knows that he's got a great chance of climbing onto the podium at the end of today. 24 seconds he needs to make up on Óscar Sevilla, and 1 minute and 1 second on Aitor González as well if he wants to climb up into second place. This is going to be a very closely fought Vuelta.
64 kilometers an hour now for the Velocidad, the average speed or the top speed now, as we're looking here at Aitor González, and he is moving. And in fact, moments ago he caught up with his police escort. There was a moment of confusion here.
There was a moment of confusion because the police escort could not get out of the way fast enough behind the man, in front of the man who was in fact riding at 65 kilometers an hour. This is Mola coming up now to the 24 kilometer time check. He's going to come through with a very respectable time. The fastest time is 28:14 set by Santiago Botero, and Mola right now, Phil, is going to come through with the 7th best time, 43 seconds off. But right now it's really drama on the roads of the Vuelta a España, because the man in third place in the overall classification has had to stop twice out on the course so far to change his machine. Last man on the road in the golden tunic of leadership, wearing number 221, Roberto Heras, right now has to ride the individual time trial of his life, and I think he's got a very good chance of making this one of the closest ever finishes we've had in the Vuelta a España.
6 seconds is the closest finish we've ever had, and now this man is hoping he doesn't take it that close. He is going to have to produce the time trial some believe he's capable of, but it's got to come out today, and it's got to happen right now. Heras knows that he has he started this race at a disadvantage now to González, and there's González just ahead of him by 2 minutes at the start house. They are heading up to the 12 kilometer check. They are not there yet, and that'll be our first gap. Now it's saying here that the gap is 11 seconds already.
11 seconds already. It goes to show that Aitor González went out very fast indeed, and Roberto Heras had said that his tactic for the time trial was to go out reasonably aggressively on this individual time trial course and then really fight over the last 20 kilometers. He's taking a lot of risks going around the corners right now, Bob.
That's the corner where we saw Aitor González almost crash into the back of the police motorcycles that are escorting him down the roads. Now Aitor González is flying. He's gaining a second about every 500 meters or so at this point right now, and that will be enough to at this point anyways. We don't know exactly if Heras is on the less steep part of the course or González is going down a downhill on the course. Zubeldia looking up towards the 24 kilometer time check. He's in 6th place so far. Zubeldia having a good ride, but it's a real battle out on the road right now, and Aitor González is putting in a storming ride. He's already 14 seconds ahead.
Huge. Now look at this. This is the situation on the overall classification in the 3 shortest victory margins in the history of the Vuelta a España. Frenchman Eric Carretou beat Alberto Fernandez by 6 seconds. Jose Manuel Fuente beat Agostinho by 11, and Conterno beat Lorono by 13. So the history is there for the making.
Well, the history's there for the making. A couple of days ago, Bob predicted it was going to be 5 seconds. Today, he's predicting it's going to be a 1 second advantage for Roberto Heras. But we could be looking at a brand new time here coming up to the line, because Angel Casero has gone up very fast indeed, and in fact he has set a brand new time, 28.05, 9 seconds faster than Santiago Botero. So we're looking at a new fast time at 24 kilometers.
Which is a surprise, because he's reversed there. He's started slowly and he's moved up a little bit, Casero, and that is a good sign. Casero starting very, very steady and moving quickly forward. Now Botero was building all of the time from the minute he got through the first check. Still looking here now at Aitor González, the man who is an extremely good time trialist. He won the time trial this year in the Giro d'Italia, and he's also won last year the time trial when he won the Tour of Murcia. So he knows what it's like to win, but this would be far and away the greatest victory of his life.
Well, it's important in the early part of the course for him to build up an advantage over Roberto Heras, Bob, isn't it? Because this part of the course suits his power. He's able to use a much larger gear than the climber Roberto Heras, and what he has to do then is try and confirm that in the second part of the course, which becomes a lot more rolling.
When you start to get an advantage over your rival and you're gaining time on him all the time down the road, it gives you a big boost to your morale. So Aitor González will be able to carry that towards the finish line, and Roberto Heras now is 29 seconds behind. He's got to start to resist these accelerations of Aitor González right now.
Well, that makes him 39 seconds from being equal on time with González. And after that, it's all gain for the golden jersey. With Heras, rather, now it's going to be a real tough battle. And we're in the middle of it. So we'll take a short break then.
And Santiago Botero, Santos González in third place now, 46 seconds behind. So some of the big names are going out, Phil, and actually producing times faster than Santiago Botero.
Well, I think it's interesting. You know, Botero quite clearly has made too quick a start here, and they've got to watch out. Our GPS system linking the motorbikes is telling us now the gap is 44 seconds. That's another 11 seconds off.
Well, he's slowly but surely building up that big advantage over Roberto Heras, who doesn't look to be suffering that much on the right-hand side of the picture in the golden jersey, but the man on the left looks like the much more fluid time trialist, doesn't he, Bob?
Yes, absolutely. He's very smooth, very powerful. He's down in the drops all the time. He's not hardly moving his shoulders at all. That's a good sign that he's having a fantastic ride, and he's a very good time trialist. Heras out of the saddle, a little bit more unsettled than Aitor González so far in this time trial. We'll wait till we get to the hills, though, and see if González hasn't overcooked it a little bit.
Well, it's not that hilly at the end. They're much more like undulations and false flats. This man has come out very fast right now. He's been in the saddle 20 minutes, and in around about 30 minutes time we'll get an idea as to whether or not he's gone out too fast, or whether he will be pulling on the final golden jersey of this year's Vuelta a España. His position right now looks very good. His cadence is excellent. He's keeping up nice and high. He's taking sweeping lines through the corners, cutting off the apex of every corner, then setting himself up as smartly as possible. But it just puts it into perspective. Look at that now, 48 seconds the difference on the road between them. Let's not forget, this is not an exact measurement. This is done by the GPS, which is on the two camera motorbikes. But I tell you what, Phil, that gap is now starting to stretch.
Well, whichever way you look at it, it's getting worse for Roberto Heras. Everybody is through at 12 kilometres, so I'll quickly give you that. González, best time there, 14 minutes and 3 seconds, 13 seconds faster than Botero, 20 seconds faster than Beloki, and 22 better than Ángel Casero, the man who won this race overall last year. Roberto Heras running 9th on the circuit at the moment, 33 seconds off the pace. We'll take a break, and when we come back...
Time gap now to Heras. He needs to also refocus and get some morale from somewhere, because he has lost the Tour of Spain at this point out on the road right now. Sevilla is about to lose third place to Beloki also.
Well, in fact, Roberto Heras and Johan Brunel said that if he did lose this bike race today, he would have lost it on the Sierra Nevada stage, where he lost himself around about 1 minute. This is Aitor González right now coming up to the next time check. That's what the overall classification was at the start of today's stage, and it was 1:08, time gap between them. But look at this, Aitor González has a new best time, 27:38, 27 seconds faster than Ángel Casero, and he does not look to me, Bob, like a man who is weakening.
He is absolutely flying, and he's saved it his best for last, and this time trial is going to go down as a very fast event. We see an average speed for David Plaza, who's leading right now with close to 50 kilometers per hour, and that it bodes poorly for Roberto Heras. He needed a little bit slower, fast average speed to be able to maintain his jersey and his minute and 8 second advantage. That's been wiped away, plus about 5 seconds now by Aitor González as far as the GPS system is showing us.
Well, this man is doing the ride that he knew he had to do on this final day, and for the moment he's looking like an absolutely superbly well-drilled athlete. He's ticking out a very good cadence right now. Obviously the correct choice of equipment for him, a full disc wheel in the rear. It's at the rear of the machine where the majority of the turbulence is caused, and that's why this man has put in the disc wheel. Look at the way, Bob, he's negotiating this traffic circle, absolutely not slowing down at all. Hands on the bottom of the handlebars just in case he needed to touch the brakes slightly just to adjust the speed, but there was hardly any change in speed at that stage. As we look here at the classification at 24 kilometres, González the fastest time, ahead of Casero and Botero, and further down Beloki in 6th place. And we'll have to go a lot further back to see the performance of Roberto Heras. Looking back to the Sierra Nevada stage, Aitor González finished in 11th place on that stage, just 58 seconds down on the leader, but he also, Phil, finished almost a minute ahead of Roberto Heras.
Well, I don't wish Roberto Heras ill luck at all, but Paulie's got to watch out. Beloki could take the place off him for second if he keeps this progress up.
Well, he certainly could. Beloki knew he wanted to do something special. I felt that Joseba Beloki was coming out of the Vuelta a España in good form, but look at that. That man in front there is Óscar Sevilla, still having serious problems. He just pulled his foot out there, and I'm not sure what the problem was, maybe a cleat problem, but he has been caught for 2 minutes by his teammate Aitor González.
Well, poor old Óscar Sevilla, 1 year on from when he was unhappy by losing the win, but was content with second. He thought this year he would return to the Vuelta and win it. Instead, the nightmare continues in a time trial. Here's the overtake now by González, and it happened so fast, I think that really stung him.
Well, that really stung him, but I think the man in second position there that we're looking at, Óscar Sevilla, I think he's been broken psychologically from that start. Something like that happens, and it is very hard to get your head back into gear, Bob.
Yes, absolutely. Sevilla seems to be a defeated man right now. Just going through the motions there, you can see his shoulders rocking from side to side. He is not having a good day today, and there's no fun in a time trial when you're not having a good ride. There's absolutely no way in the race of truth that you can hide anywhere on the roads, and all of your flaws are exposed for the world to see, and Sevilla going through all kinds of torture today.
But how, look at the gap, Bob. Normally when a guy passes, you hang on in his slipstream, but he's just gone into the distance.
González is really flying down the roads today. He is doing a ride to rival the best time trials we've seen this year, and just at the right moment. Roberto Heras is still riding quite well for him. He's not a specialist at this discipline, especially these long, straight, flat, wide open roads. He just doesn't have the power. He's a pure climber, and Aitor González proving to be the more well-rounded bike racer in the whole Tour of Spain so far.
Well, at the 24-kilometre time check, the difference between Roberto Heras and Joseba Beloki was only 31 seconds. So for the moment, Roberto Heras is holding on to second place in the overall classification. Óscar Sevilla, on the other hand, went through there a minute and 33 seconds behind his teammate. So he has dropped down an awful lot in the overall classification. Roberto Heras, in fact, I was talking to Lance Armstrong about Heras. They have done everything they can to try and improve this man's time trialling ability. The reason he came to US Postal was to try and ride better in the time trials, because if he wants to win the Tour de France one day, he will have to be able to be competitive in the individual time trial discipline. They've put everything into their investment with this man to put him into not only the wind tunnels, as we see Beltran coming in here with a very impressive ride for Manuel Beltran, 4th place for him. But to come back to what Armstrong was saying, that they've got the equipment on their side, they've got a very special aerodynamic skin suit, they've been with this man of theirs to put him into the wind tunnels, but at the end of the day, you have to be able to have the power to be able to kick over the gears necessary to go at speeds of 30 miles an hour. This, in fact, Phil, is Casero coming in, and I think we're going to see another new best time.
This could be a reshake at the top. Botero will wonder what's happened here, because I thought he might have done the best time, but not so. Casero now is lining up for the finish here. He's got steadily better and better since he left the start house. Last year's winner, and he almost overshot the corner, but he stayed upright. He's now sprinting into the stadium. Very, very tricky, and thank heavens it's not raining today. Platzer is the best time. Here comes the new best time, and this will be a nice feeling for last year's winner. Best time on the board, 49.17.
Gap here, Phil, between González and Heras. It's now almost out to 2 minutes. Roberto Heras is losing time consistently all of the time on Aitor González. He came out today, he knew he had to do something very special. This time trial is just a little longer than the last one, which was 35 kilometres, and Roberto Heras has lost all hopes, I think, right now of finishing finishing the Vuelta a España for the second time.
Well, everybody is through the 24-kilometre now as interest moves up to 35 kilometres to go. I hope you're enjoying, as I'm sure you are, this commercial-free half hour with Lincoln, as we are now watching the men that have given us so much excitement over 3 weeks of racing, and it's all come down to a 40-kilometre time trial between these two riders we're looking at now, Aitor González and the man in the golden jersey. This rider here fighting for his life for for the podium place, and at the moment he's doing enough to achieve it.
Well, he's doing enough to achieve that, and that will be a remarkable performance to finish on 2 podiums of Grand Tours in the same year. Second in the Tour de France this year to Lance Armstrong, and more than likely today he's going to be in 3rd place in the Vuelta a España. And if Roberto Heras doesn't dig a little bit deeper over the last 10 kilometres, this man could be looking at 2nd place as well. He has gone out and taken a big risk, I think, with that front wheel that he's got in there, Bob, because that front wheel has been a little bit difficult for him over the open part of this course, especially when there's been
4 great competitive Spanish cyclists here. 1 on 1, 2 on 2, and they're reshuffling that finishing podium for sure.
Well, we're not going to have the closest finisher in the Vuelta this year, because that is a huge gap right now. And in fact, Roberto Heras in the overall classification is almost a minute behind Aitor González. González on the left-hand side there, still looking very cool and collected, very concentrated on the job in hand, and all he has to do is keep riding at this pace, and he will be the new winner of the Vuelta a España, the first time he will ever win a Grand Tour. Casagrande coming in for a fairly consistent ride there, 8th place for him, 48.6 kilometres an hour, and he should keep himself up in the overall classification in the 7th place.
The piece of riding by González, though, a real demonstration here. Powerful riding. He's putting in now almost 2 minutes into his teammate Santiago Botero, who was the first man to beat 50 minutes for the distance, and he looks so good.
He looks absolutely superb. There are no telltale signs of any weakness at all here. As we look at Iban Mayo coming into the finish of the final stage here, he's looking at a 4th place finish at the moment. That's a very good time by him, and that will keep him up in 5th place in the overall classification. As he charges up to the line, he's slipping away just a little bit, but that's not really what's important for him, because I think he's done a lot better ride than Francesco Casagrande, who was about
spending 3 weeks in the saddle pedaling around what has been a tremendously difficult course. Take a look at Beloki's face here now. He's got to watch this bend, as so many riders have tried to make it too fast around this corner. Oh, he put the brakes on rather suddenly, and he's changed gear again as he now sprints the line. He's coming home, and he's going to get that 4th place time easily for the moment as he sprints into the line, and then 24 seconds is all he can allow if he wants that 3rd place. 50.04, and that is 4th place for Joseba Beloki. So, Paul, it's not going to be Sevilla has really got to pull out the stops now.
Well, he's got to finish in a time of 50.28 if he wants to keep himself on the podium, and I don't think he's going to do that right now. This is the man who is looking at winning the stage right now as we go back to Roberto Heras. Heras now seeming to struggle a little bit, Bob, on these long straight roads on the outskirts of Madrid. Rather a tough
sneak as well.
He's going to win the Vuelta a España after all the talk we've had of he went out with a deficit of 1 minute 8. He's going to come home with a victory margin of about 1:40 to 1:45. That'll be his winning margin. Far and away, nowhere near the closest Vuelta in the end. This man rode like a man possessed today. He's been an absolute star. He's taking out victory in the Vuelta with 3 stage wins. And like all good bike race winners, he's won a road race stage as well as 2 time trials, because nobody's going to get near González now. He's round the dangerous bend. He's sprinting into the stadium as the winner of 2002 Vuelta a España. Look at the face on him now. He knows he's done it. That's the win. 47.54, 1:23 quicker than Ángel Casero, last year's winner of the race.
Absolutely superb time, and he came up to the line there, Phil, and I think he knew in his mind that not only was he winning this time trial, but he knew he had enough time to win the Vuelta a España as well. He would have been fed that information all of the time. Now this is going to be very important for Óscar Sevilla. He's not going to do it, Phil. He needs to get to the finish line in a time of 50.28, and that will tick by, because it's a fairly tricky approach still to come for Óscar Sevilla, and if it hadn't been for the 2 bike changes, he'd have been 3rd.
That bend was where he lost his 3rd place in this year's Vuelta a España. That little bit of difference was all the bike changes took. They cost him his 3rd place in the race, pure and simple. Sevilla comes home 2:49 behind González and will finish this tour in 4th, and I can imagine how he feels this time around. 50.43 there for Sevilla. Sevilla was holding Beloki and improving towards the end. Those bike changes cost him the podium place, nothing else.
Nothing else at all. If it hadn't been for 2 bicycle changes for Óscar Sevilla, he would have been 3rd place at the end of this bike race. Roberto Heras will come in now to a huge cheer from the crowd. It wasn't good enough for him today, but he's been a true champion. He's been aggressive on the mountains. 14th place for him, which is a very impressive ride at the end of the day for a man who is reputedly not a great individual time trialist.
30 miles an hour was his speed there for that ride. Looking down on that stadium, one of the most famous football teams in the world, and they've packed it out for the finish of the Tour of Spain this time around. A new finish. Thank heavens it wasn't raining. That final bend would have caused a lot of problems, I believe. But there's no doubt now, after this final race of truth, the winner of the 2002 Tour of Spain is Aitor González from Kelme. He takes the victory away from Roberto Heras of US Postal on the very last day of the event. And that's the second year in succession that has happened. We'll take a break, then rejoin us for an interview of everybody. He rides under his own name there at the best time in the time trial, 47 minutes and 54 seconds. He has conquered the Tour of Spain, and he has eaten Roberto Heras over that 41 kilometres with a ride that was in a class of its own. And now comes the nice part of the business, and that is getting onto the podium. Well, I think he deserves everything he gets here, because he didn't just win 2 of the time trial stages. He proved his worth in the mountains. He proved his aggression. Remember that road up to Avila where he nipped 4 seconds? No, he didn't need them in the end, but he didn't know that until today.
He didn't know that at all. He had to give every possible chance of pulling time back on Roberto Heras, and that's why he leapt out and took himself those 4 seconds. For him, they were obviously a psychological 4 seconds and a positive. But look at that, what an incredible crowd here coming for the final day of the Vuelta here. And this man getting the trophy, a very large trophy for winning the final stage. And in a few moments' time, he'll get himself the golden jersey. And there's the team that helped him, and I wonder if there'll be a small discussion between himself and Óscar Sevilla, because once or twice there they didn't really work so well as a team, Bob.
No, they did a little bit of damage to each other's chances on the Angliru when Aitor González attacked Sevilla. There he is right now, the cherubic assassin of the mountains. Not a great Vuelta a España. I think he'll be very disappointed, especially to lose his podium position on the last day.
Regular finishing point in future years.
Well, in fact, this is only the 16th time that the Vuelta a España, Phil, has actually finished in a stadium like this, and in the past it has always been big football stadiums. The last time it finished at the Real Madrid stadium was back in 1948, and that I think could be the sign for the future. This is a great venue. A little bit tricky the run-in, and if it had been raining, we might have seen 1 or 2 riders decking it in that final corner, but at the end of the day it did produce a magnificent backdrop. That's the winning team of the Vuelta a España this year, and if this had been last year, that would have given them an automatic selection for the Tour de France. But since then, the Union Cycliste Internationale have decided to move the goalposts a little bit, Phil.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a lovely picture, isn't it? 1 jersey as points winner in the Tour of Spain.
He's a great bike rider, and I tell you one thing, Phil, he battled on all of the tough stages to keep himself in the points, and last year he lost it because of the great performances by Jose Maria Jimenez, the great Spanish climber who garnered most of his points on the big mountain top finishes. But Eric Zabel, a few days ago there were rumours that he might not finish this year's Vuelta a España, but you can never take it away from Eric. He's a fantastic
points and the golden jersey ranking.
There's Heras getting a prize there, and a little tchotchke there. That's the Iberian lynx, I believe, that
you nailed it the
mentioned
first
earlier.
time, Bob. I was very impressed 3 weeks ago when you told me that.
It's an endangered species, and actually from the region around the Sierra de Bejarano, which is the hometown of this man right here, Roberto Heras. He's a little bit disappointed, I think. The white jersey is a nice prize, but I believe he would have loved to finish up in gold.
Yes, and we hope to see him back in the action next season. He's been out through sickness all year, but this man is making up for that, and Benesto will remember this last week of the Vuelta a España, because they've ridden extremely well.
At the end of the day, they've got themselves 4 stage victories out of the Vuelta a España and a title of the King of the Mountains. And with a contract which will be renewed at the end of 2003, they needed to come out at the end of this year's Vuelta with some good performances. I think saddened by the fact that their top man Mancebo abandoned on the course. Psychologically a bitter blow for him. He thought he was going to finish in the top 5 of the Tour, and he blew it all away on a flat stage which nobody expected to be dangerous except some of the other riders in the bike went.
Well, he really is a man who's enjoyed this. He's been smiling 4 seconds on an uphill sprint. There's the crowd, a welcome on board now as winner, his first big Grand Tour victory. Aitor González comes in and gets the victory not by a few seconds but by over 2 minutes with a scintillating time trial that was equal to any of the best time trials we've seen around the world for many a year. So he gets the golden jersey that matters. First time he's had it on his shoulders since this race began in Valencia. Remember, a race in which 207 riders started, only 132 made the finish, and this man made sure that the last golden jersey was for him.
Well, a brilliant performance by him today. He had to do something special, and that time trial that he performed today was almost 52 kilometers an hour, which is 33 miles an hour in old money. A brilliant ride by him.
So there are the trophies, there are the flowers. He's still got plenty of strength left. He's now going to stay in Madrid and train here, and maybe in a couple of weeks' time he'll be pulling on a rainbow jersey as a time trial world champion. He's certainly been a champion rider today. González is a star of the future. These are the dreadful conditions we experienced on that brute of a climb on the Langrau. He struggled here, but he never lost sight of where he was going, and he even took on Heras when he wanted to, when it mattered. He had to really dig deep at this point, Bob. He really had to dig deep, and I think when Heras looked over his shoulder there, he couldn't believe he was being brought back.
This is the first attack that Heras put on during the Covatilla climb, the last big mountain stage of the Vuelta a España, and Aitor González was able to claw his way back up to the wheel of Heras and then fought him hard all the way to the finish. He rode really strong. Sevilla caught him there. They got together and they rode together to the end of this stage to limit their losses, and it kept him just that much closer to Roberto Heras so he could use his time-trialing power on the last day of the Vuelta to come out the overall winner. And here you see him going down the highway today very quickly, very smooth, very powerful, and that's 3 Spanish flags there, an all-Spanish podium, but on the top step, Aitor González emerging as new superstar of international cycling.
There's been a complete domination by Spain. 8 Spanish riders fill in the top 10.
Yes, and it wasn't the course really that we thought it would be dominated by one particular nation, but in the end they came out on top. And so Aitor González salutes the crowd. Roberto Heras looks across at what he's had for the last 5 days. He's seen it pass over to his rival on this one particular day, the most important day of all. And Joseba Beloki deserves his 3rd place now. He's kept his form from July when he finished 2nd to Lance Armstrong. Now he finishes 3rd to another USP rider there, Roberto Heras. Well, I hope you've enjoyed our coverage. We've been with you now for 3 weeks here on the Vuelta a España. We've certainly enjoyed bringing to you what has been a great competitive event. Hats off to the prize winners. They've given us a lot of entertainment. So, until the next time we bring you cycling here on OLN, don't forget, check us out at our website. Then you'll find out when and where, www.olntv.com. On behalf of Bob Roll, Paul Sherwin, it's me, Phil Liggett, saying until the next time, goodbye.